Okay, now we're going to do some rational expressions and adding and subtracting them. And it's just like fractions. If we have a common denominator, all we do is add the numerators and put them all over the common denominator. And that's the case in these first two examples. Both the common denominator is 4x minus 1 in this case. So all we can do is just add the numerators. So we've got 2x minus 3 plus 3x plus 4 all over 4x minus 1. And we just simplify the top. 2x plus 3x is 5x, so I got 5x. And then negative 3 plus 4, or 4 minus 3 is just plus 1. And that's all over my common denominator, which is 4x minus 1. All right, now if we take a look at the next one, we're subtracting. Now you got to be careful in subtracting because lots of times students will just put a minus on the first term but not the second term. So you have to make sure that when you see something like this, you could either do an extra step or you can just put a parentheses around this to remember that that negative sign will apply to both these terms. And then we can subtract our numerators and put them over the common denominator. So I have 3x minus 4, and then minus times a positive is, or negative times a positive is a negative 5x, and a negative times a positive is a negative 3, so don't forget to change this sign. This is the sign that a lot of students will forget. They will just change the sign on the first one but not the second. And that's still going to be over the common denominator, 4x plus 5 in this case. And now we just simplify. Negative 5x plus 3x is negative 2x. So I have negative 2x, and negative 4 and negative 3 is negative 7. All over 4x plus 5. So there we go. All right, now when we don't have a common denominator, then they become the more challenging problems. So we want to add these, and we have to have a denominator, we have to identify the least common denominator, and we have to have both fractions with a common denominator. We want the least one, so it saves us some work later, otherwise we'll have to reduce. So we want to identify the LCD. And remember, it has to be built from the factors we have already, the denominators we have already, or the factors of the denominators. So I've got an x plus 4, so I'm going to have an x plus 4 in my LCD. And I have an x minus 3, so I'm going to have an x minus 3. Now these are what we call relatively prime. They don't have any common factors. It'd be like 2 and 3. The least common denominator of 1/2 plus 1/3 is 2 times 3, or 6. So this is because they're what we call relatively prime. So these are also relatively prime. So the least common denominator is just their product. And you can see the x plus 4 here, and you can actually physically see the x minus 3 there. So that's what we want. So we have to, I'll rewrite this, leave ourselves a little bit of room. So we got 2 over x plus 4 plus x over, x over x minus 3. And in order to have x plus 4 times x minus 3, I need to multiply the top and the bottom by x minus 3. Remember, x minus 3 over x minus 3 is 1, so I can multiply anything by 1, but I want to get this denominator to be the same as my LCD, so I need an x minus 3 there. And then here, what do I need? I need an x plus 4. So I have to multiply the top and the bottom by x plus 4. And now I have both these over a common denominator, so I can just write equals, and I can put the numerators over the common denominator. And we'll write out an extra step. You could multiply this out and save yourself some time, but we'll just write an extra step so you can see it. 2 times x minus 3 plus x times x plus 4. And that's all over the LCD, which is going to be x plus 4 times x minus 3. And now we can simplify, so we can take the top and multiply this out. Using the distributive property, I've got 2x minus 2 times 3 is 6 plus x squared plus 4x. All over my LCD. And then we can simplify this a little bit. We'll have x squared on the top. And put in descending powers, x squared, and 4x plus 2x is 6x, and then minus 6. All over my LCD, which is x plus 4 times x minus 3. There's your answer. Oops. Okay. And I think we can fit one more in here, number 14. Again, these are from a review sheet here, so that's where these problems are coming from. X minus 1 minus 9 over x minus 2. Okay? And again, I want to first of all identify what the least common denominator is going to be. These again are relatively prime, so my LCD will just be the product. X minus 1 times x minus 2. So I leave myself a little space so I can doctor these up. So I've got 2x all over x minus 1, and then minus 9 all over x minus 2. And we want to make both these denominators look like the LCD. So what am I missing here? An x minus 2, so I multiply the top and the bottom by x minus 2. And here I need an x minus 1, so I multiply the top and the bottom by x minus 1. And x minus 1 over x minus 1 is 1, so we're really not changing the value, we're just changing the form. I sometimes call this a convenient form of 1. It's a unit fraction. When the numerator and the denominator are the same, it's 1. Okay, so now I can now watch out, we got this negative, this leading negative sign, so be really careful. So 9 times x. When you distribute, don't forget, it applies to both signs. And this is all over my LCD, x minus 1, x minus 2. And that's going to equal, and I'll remove those parentheses by using the distributive property, 2x squared minus 4x. And then I'll distribute this, negative 9x, and a negative times a negative is a positive, 9. All over my LCD, x minus 1 times x minus 2. And I can simplify this. I've got 2x squared, small a x squared term. And I got negative 4 and negative 9 is negative 13x plus 9. All over my LCD, x minus 1, x minus 2. And again, the restrictions on my domain would be x cannot equal 1 or x cannot equal 2, because that would make the denominator 0. Okay? And we also had restrictions on the other problems also. I just didn't list those. But in this case, x cannot equal negative 4, x cannot equal positive 3. This one we'd have to set it equal to 0, so we have, if I want to find the restrictions on this domain, I could say 4x plus 5 cannot equal 0. So 4x cannot equal negative 5. So x cannot equal negative 5/4. You see? And this one, 4x minus 1 cannot equal 0. So 4x cannot equal 1. So x cannot equal 1/4. So those are the restrictions on the domain, and that's an easy way to find those. Okay? So there you go. I hope those make sense. And we'll do a few more.